Welcome friends, it's Ray. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I am featuring cards made with the Hero Arts monthly card kit for March. And this month's theme is all about abstract and texture and paint and splatter, and as if you were in a museum viewing various paintings and artwork. And so as part of this kit we have a die, a large A2 size die with a couple of people viewing a photo in a frame or a painting or a piece of art. So this is nice. And we also get a 4x6 stamp set. Oh, here we go. With a large paint splatter and a small one, and then some sentiments. So very pretty there. We get some embossing and watermark clear ink. And everything comes in this pouch. And then we get a sheet of textured cardstock. I don't think you can see that on the camera, but it is a textured cardstock, and it doesn't appear that it's watercolor. It's just regular, maybe 70-80 pound cardstock. And we get two sheets or pieces of A2 sized cardstock. And let me see, did I read someplace that this is eco paper, maybe? Let's see. No, this is extra thick canvas paper. Okay. And then this larger piece is called a canvas textured paper as well. And then we also get some embossing powder. I'm losing things here. I knew there were 4 and I could only find 3. So we get purple, orange, blue, and goldenrod. Very nice. These are not resealable, so I am going to put them in containers, I think, assuming I still have some left, some small containers. Okay, so let's get started creating cards with this kit. I'm using the extra thick canvas paper from the kit and laying down some ripe persimmon really roughly. This is Distress Oxide, and then some prize ribbon. Not trying to do anything fancy, just do one little overlapping and blending, but just really organic. Bringing in a second sheet, doing the exact same thing with Distress Oxide seedless preserves, and then wild honey. I know these look like a blob of hot mess, but just stick with me. After I'm pleased with that, I will set both of these panels aside to dry. And now that they're dry, I'm placing one in my MISTI and placing the large splatter stamp from the kit on, and prepped for heat embossing, and am using some Versamark ink to stamp that image. Next, I will apply some of the blue embossing powder from the kit. I'm applying that embossing powder over maybe about half of the image, and then I'm going to bring in the orange embossing powder from the kit and apply that to the other portion of this image. I'll go ahead and emboss or heat this first image. I flipped my image over, placed it in my MISTI, and then moved my stamp over just a bit. I wanted a little overlap, but not very much. And so I'm inking that up again with the Versamark ink, and will then apply more of the blue and orange embossing powders, of the orange embossing powder from the kit. And like before, I applied orange to one half, and then now I'm applying blue to the other part of that image, and will heat emboss that. And I did move my embossing powders from those pouches that were not resealable. I moved them to some containers that I had from the Dollar Tree. And here, as you can see, I'm adding more. I'm adding those portions of the image or the stamp, and adding more orange and blue embossing powder. And then I will heat set this. And this is the visual I had in mind. I wanted some ink, and I wanted splatter and lots of colored embossing powder. And here I am doing the exact same for my my seedless preserves and my wild honey panel. And then I will bring in the orange, or no, the goldenrod and the purple embossing powders, and do the same to this panel. I decided with this video that I would focus on my backgrounds first, and then I will go back and use these backgrounds to make my cards. Here I'm moving on to my third background, and have used Versamark ink to stamp both the large and the small splatter onto a slimline black cardstock. And I'm bringing in a little of the purple embossing powder, and then I will switch to the next color. I used regular copy paper, and a lot of times I'm recycling. I use that and fold it in half and reuse it several times, or many times, for my my embossing powder. And I label it so that I don't cross-contaminate. Here I have brought in my, I think that was goldenrod, maybe orange. It's hard to tell as I do this voiceover, but it is definitely from the kit. I think that was the goldenrod, and now I'm bringing in the blue. And oh, I love this blue. Love it. And I am going to then apply some blue to the bottom. So I'm just going in and applying different colors of embossing powder throughout my panel. Then I will come in with orange. So yes, that was goldenrod earlier, because this is orange. And I will finish covering anywhere that I didn't cover. I will cover it with this orange. I'm bringing in my dry paintbrush to remove some of the stray embossing powder, and then we'll heat set that. I have placed, I believe this is the large splatter, onto an acrylic block, and am just bringing it in on the sides of, or both sides of the panel, and we'll move to the corners, bottom corner and the top two corners as well. I went through and applied the different colors of the embossing powder on those areas that I just stamped, And so it looks like I pressed kind of hard on a couple of those areas and got embossing on some extra areas, and I'm okay with that. So I am considering this panel done. Mhm. So I've been having a good time creating backgrounds with this kit. And so here I'm bringing in one of my stencils that I made, and I'll be sure to link below to the video where I made some stencils. And so I have used some purple tape to affix a stencil to my panel or my card stock panel, and bringing in some Distress Oxide and Ripe Persimmon, staying with my same color palette, bringing in Seedless Preserves, and blending those colors as I go. And then this last color is Prize Ribbon. So just gonna come back in and do some more blending and get it the way I want it. So let's remove that stencil, and off camera I will clean it with a baby wipe. I used my heat tool to speed up the drying on this panel, placed it in my MISTI, and then now placed a clear acetate sheet over top because I didn't clean my stamps, and then I am positioning the large and the small splatter on to my acetate and affix or close the door of my MISTI to pick those up, and am now applying a Versamark clear embossing ink. Uh, but first, I came back and applied some anti-static powder. Yay! Um, so stamping that a couple of times, those images a couple of times, and we'll then um, come in with some of the embossing powder from the kit. I'm bringing in the purple and the orange. After I heat emboss those, I put my panel in my splatter box, and I am bringing in some of my Distress Oxide, or no, Distress ink sprays that I made, and I will link to that video as well. So here I put a drop of chipped sapphire Distress ink on my palette, added a little water, and am using that to splatter all over my panel, and feeling real creative. Here I am. Just a regular little um, artist at this point, right? I've die cut the cover plate die from the kit, and out of black cardstock, and then out of some chipboard, and affixing that together with double-sided tape and craft tacky glue, and placing that onto my orange and blue heavy canvas piece of art. And I've cut a panel for the inside, and I'm using Ripe Persimmon and Prize Ribbon Distress Oxide inks to stamp my inside splatter. And then I will also place this in my MISTI and stamp an inside sentiment using black ink. Hero Arts Intense Blackie. I stamped my outside sentiment using the blue embossing powder from the kit, and cut it out with an MFT banner die, and affixed it with some double-sided tape. And here I am bringing in some pops of color in Deep Sea Pearl to finish off this card. So then I have brought in another panel here and stamping um, the stamps or stamping the splatter image in Distress Oxide, Prize Ribbon, Ripe Persimmon, and Seedless Preserves for the inside of card number 2, which is a slimline card with a black card base. I have assembled this card and matted my focal panel onto a purple mat, 1/8 inch purple mat, and then mounted that onto my black card base. I've embossed my sentiment using the purple embossing powder from the kit, cut it down and mounted it onto foam tape. And then I am bringing in some Nouveau drops, glitter drops in Purple Rain. This is like my favorite. I don't know if that's because I like the song Purple Rain, but purple is actually my favorite color. So this is my favorite card. So my third card uses the cover plate from the kit, and I am just, I've added some double-sided tape already, adding some liquid adhesive and placing that onto my um, art masterpiece, and decided that I did not like the coloring that I had done with my Prismacolor pencils, so I am redoing that here and heat embossing my sentiment, and we'll use some Wow Superfine Copper embossing powder for this sentiment, and only stamped it once very lightly because it's such small text. I want to be able to get a really good impression. I heat that off camera with my heat tool and let it cool. Next, I'm bringing in my Prismacolor pencils again and am just coloring using the black pencil, coloring the hair on the male, and I'm making his shirt white. And I am by no means an expert in using these colored pencils, but I am doing my best. And I do stop from time to time to sharpen them because they get dull really quickly. So I am using blue, the navy blue here, because I want him to have some dark slacks on and then black shoes. And I'm darkening the pants with black and also blue, and giving blue to the pants on the female, and we'll color her shirt or her shoes in brown, and then just using brown to kind of accent my floor to make it stand out a little more, but I'm being very careful to go lightly here. um, I used, and I'm using brown here on the bench, and then I will come in with the sienna brown for her hair, and then color her shirt in purple to finish off the little coloring that I'm doing here. I just wanted them to stand out over the craft a little more. So next I'm going to glue this down to my um, messed up frame, and am using double-sided tape, and then I put a little liquid adhesive on the bodies of the people in the museum scene, and then just to fix that to the top, and I like that panel much better. So here I'm going to bring in some copper Stickles embellishing drops, and I thought I shook it up really well, but I did not because nothing came out except some clear liquid. Clearly messed up my panel a little bit, but I am going to bring in my orange brush, touch that up a little bit, and that looks fine, but just wanted that to leave that in so you can see that those that liquid needs to be shaken up quite a bit. My fourth and final card in this video is a Slimline card, and I have a die, a Miss You die from a prior kit, and I have die cut the white shadow, or the shadow from white cardstock, and the Miss You sentiment from a royal blue cardstock, and I'm affixing the pieces together. And I always use my Ranger multimedia matte adhesive because it's really thin, it dries clear, and it's just really good for small intricate details. So here I've brought in my panel and have placed it onto a cardstock, royal cardstock mat. And I want about a 1/8 inch border, so I am trimming that down just a hair. And then we'll affix my sentiment with some liquid glue to the card panel. After I apply the sentiment and let that set, I will apply this panel to my white card base. I partially release my the release paper from a double-sided tape, position my panel onto my card base where I want it, and once I get it just right, then I'll release the rest of that release paper. And here I'm bringing in some of the deep sea pearl pops of color to accent and finish off this card. Let's take a closer look at all of the cards I made in today's video. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. And if you like the video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if not already a subscriber. Good day, friends.